Hi and welcome. I'm Bierbaum, and today we're going to be talking about finding your purpose as a man. In my practice as a coach, I encounter many young and some not so young men tiptoeing hesitantly through life as they search for their purpose. Many feel inadequate for not having found it. They believe that when they find it, they'll become that guy who started a company and made $1 billion exit, just like that one whose YouTube channel they're watching. In this video, I'm going to show you that this is one of the great delusions of the age. I'll also show you what you should be doing instead, and what people can do to support you. So let's get real here for a moment. I live in Johannesburg, South Africa, a city that was quite literally built on gold. The African name for it is Egoli, the city of gold, or the place of gold. Probably half the gold ever mined in the history of the world has come from the gold mines under this city. Many of them go down 4 or 5 kilometers under the ground. You can take a tour to some of the old unused mines. It's all clean and air conditioned, but if you use your imagination, you can get a sense of how tough and frightening it must have been. They worked so far underground it took them more than an hour in a rickety cage lift just to get down to the shafts. Then they'd work 18-hour shifts in temperatures of 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. That's like 110, 120 Fahrenheit. Drilling, blasting, dragging, and breaking rocks. If something happened to you when you were down there, you had a real problem. And a lot did happen. Fatality rates were high. The fact is, those men who worked on the gold mines left their homes in the rural areas and migrated to Johannesburg, where they lived in prison-like hostels, many of them to a single room and bunks, and they worked in those conditions. And why? So that they could send money home to their families. And here we're getting to my first point, which is that historically, men had a lot less choice than we often assume. Those men on the mines clearly had a lot less job satisfaction than we might hope for today. They made major sacrifices, not only in terms of lifestyle, but often in terms of their actual lives. And their purpose was to support their families, their villages, their societies. It was the knowledge that they were doing that gave them meaning. That was their purpose. Just to broaden my range of proof on the subject of men not always having choice over their careers, let's look at societies in the Middle Ages. The eldest son would inherit the estate, while the younger ones were allotted to the military, the clergy, or to civic duty or some lowly form of commerce, often against his will or their will. A good example of this is given in the series The Borgias, where the Pope's second son, Cesare, was forced into the clergy despite his dreams of being a military leader, and how he struggled throughout with the dissonance of that. Similarly, sons of middle and lower class families were often recruited by their lords or kings to do the same. Many of them became sailors or foot soldiers and got sent on missions where many of them died. Once again, choice was not a big part of it. You pretty much did as you were directed, or as life directed you. There was not a lot of drifting around figuring out what your purpose or your passion was. Of course, there were exceptions. There were men who expressed a unique talent or passion and who inevitably followed that. Someone so determined to be a soldier or a trader or a priest or explorer that nothing could stop them. Some examples include Christopher Columbus, who was born into a family of weavers, in other words, not a nobleman, and yet who convinced the Spanish monarchy to fund his passion as an explorer. Another explorer was David Livingstone, who started out as a clergyman and then became a great African explorer. Other stories are Napoleon, Lawrence of Arabia, St. Francis of Assisi, Van Gogh, and so on. More recent exceptions are Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. But these exceptions actually prove the rule, because the one thing we can say for sure is that those men did not go in search of their passion. They didn't ever have to ask the question. Their passion chose them. They knew it from an early age. They were men of destiny. For a good reference on this, read The Soul's Code by James Hillman. The only possibility those men might have thought they had was to run from their passion. And probably some of them tried. But they could not run from it any more than they could have gone back into their mother's womb and come out as someone else. And by the way, if you're finding value here, please remember to subscribe. So here's my point. Men, you don't need to find your passion. If your passion exists, it has already found you. It never leaves you alone. It's all you think about. You drive people mad with it. And I'm not talking about addictions or obsessions like gaming or finding the next unicorn startup. Those are mostly distractions or fantasies. I'm talking about men who have a giant, all-consuming desire to do one thing, to answer some inner calling, some unexplainable urge that's been with them since they can remember. So if you're wandering around asking what your passion is, or not choosing a career because you haven't found your passion, then you're misguided, my friend. You're tormenting yourself for no reason. You've fallen prey to one of the great delusions of the age. The delusion that choice is inevitable. As though your right to choose was some sacred promise made by God at the beginning of time. Sadly, that was not the case. And although we find ourselves in a time where there is unprecedented choice on many levels, especially from a marketing point of view, our brains have not evolved enough to know how to deal with it in the personal realm. Our brains have not caught up with our expectations, let's say. So let me give you a view on what might really be going on for you. And it's just a view. I think it's a fairly accurate one, but let's see. So let's say that your masculine brain likes to hunt, except with nothing to actually hunt, it turns to solving problems. That's the modern form of hunting. It's hunting in the abstract, and your passion is your abstract prey. Your brain gets a little dopamine hit every time you go off on your quest to find your passion. And because it's abstract, it's well disguised. I mean, it's not like you're stalking in the suburbs with a spear looking like a fool. No. You're sitting on your meditation cushion, you're engaging your coach, you're bending your best friend's ear, all of which looks very sophisticated. It's a very good look, but it's not very purposeful. It's not likely to really lead anywhere. There's probably a lot of pressure and expectation on you to find that purpose and to become that billion-dollar exit guy. A lot of pressure you create yourself more than anything. Or these days, it's about influencing 1 billion lives. I hear that a lot. This is supposed to not look like ambition, influence 1 billion lives rather than make $1 billion. But in my book, it is ambition all the same. And that's fine. It's fine to have ambition. We should. And to want to change the world. Great. Let's just be honest about it. Anyway, what competitive male whose whole biological makeup is designed to prove his worth would choose to be ordinary in this world of billion-dollar exiters going public? I have a response to that. What those men, the Steve Jobses, the Elon Musks, the billion-dollar exiters, all did was they followed their own path. They were unutterably themselves. Whether it was luck, karma, destiny, or some perfect childhood cocktail that put them where they are, there's little you or I could do to push our life into that mold. Yet, that's what you're trying to do every time you try to be like them. Sure, you can gain a tip or two, but you'll never be them, and that's okay. Your job is to be yourself, to follow the passion that has already found you, and if that's not the case, then believe me, you've been relieved of a huge burden. Because when you're in those positions, when you have to bear the weight of destiny, you end up having to do some awful things, make some decisions you don't want to make, and take on karma that might take you lifetimes to pay back. There's a scene in the series Marco Polo that illustrates this, when Genghis Khan has to make a terrible decision to order the death of someone he really doesn't want to. He walks with Marco Polo and shares his burden, and he points out that everybody wants to be in his position, but nobody would want to make the decisions or do the hard things that it requires. So, what should you be doing? What you should be doing is finding a job. More or less any job, as long as it's something you don't absolutely hate, that challenges you enough to focus your attention and gives you the opportunity to make a contribution, or as I like to say, to pay the rent, and perhaps to be a provider for others. Then celebrate that. Celebrate being a partner, a provider, a friend, a good citizen. Do some learning on the side, get a hobby, exercise more. That's your purpose, to live a good life. And don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying you can't pursue dreams or find your passion, but do it this way around. Instead of looking for some big thing, look for it in the small things. And the big things, if they are meant for you, will come to you. Your passion will find you, and it can be a small thing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. And I promise you there's some science behind this, which will come out in other episodes. It's not just me saying so. If you're young and struggling to find your passion, I pray to God that you're not living with your parents and that they're not supporting you in this quest. My message to you and to them is that the best thing that can happen to a young man who can't find his passion is for someone to demand that he pays the rent while he looks for it. And I mean that. Everything will fall in line for you, as long as you give up this childish notion that you should be doing something that doesn't exist, or that you have to find it before you can do something. and endeavor instead to always pay your way. You're not that special, and that's okay. It's quite a relief, actually. If you'd lived here 100 years ago, where I am, you'd have been going down a mine shaft every day. Likewise, if you're the partner of a man who's drifting aimlessly while he waits for his passion to drop out of the sky, do the same. Demand that he pays the rent. That's all. Everything else will fall into place. Thank you, and if you found value from this, please remember to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.